702.
World of Work.
Today we're discussing interview ghosting and how to handle it on our World of Work feature. Have you ever done an interview and you thought you got the job and then you just never got called back? There are many people that face challenges in their job hunting journey. They go through an interview, sometimes even do panel assessments. They get invited to the second and third rounds and then silence. There's no feedback, there's no email, there's no callback. There's basically no explanation. That can be a frustrating experience that can leave you as a candidate feeling anxious, feeling confused, and feeling uncertain about where the company stands or what went wrong. And we live in an environment where it's a tough job market already. So the lack of communication can feel deeply discouraging, especially when candidates have invested time, money, and emotional energy into preparing for interviews. But what does this silence actually mean? And why do organizations sometimes fail to respond? And what can you, as a job seeker, realistically do to cope, to follow up, but also to improve your chances going forward? If you've ever been ghosted after an interview, I would like you to share your experience with us. How did you navigate that? 011-883-0702 is the number to dial. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. Nelisile Simelane is a Senior HR Solutionist at Shiluvah SA, who's going to guide us through this conversation. Nelisile, thank you so much for your time. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement, and good morning to the listeners. Thank you for having me. Today's topic is one we can all relate to. I think at some point we've all stayed at our phones, waiting patiently for that call back or refreshing our emails like it's a full-time job.
Right.
So it's a very, very important conversation, yeah.
Why do companies do that? Why do companies or interviewers sometimes fail to give feedback after an interview?
Clement, the truth is, in many cases, it's not intentional. HR teams are often overwhelmed, interviewers get busy, competing priorities, and communication falls through the cracks. It's more about capacity than intention, really. It's not ideal, but it happens more often than people realize.
Okay, so it's not usually intentional. So there are internal organizational reasons that candidates perhaps might not be aware of.
Definitely. So it's almost always organizational.
Okay.
So candidates don't get to see the behind-the-scenes drama, right? So there are a lot of approvals, scheduling, panel availability, even office politics as well. They play a part in all of this. So there's a whole lot of HR telenovela happening in the background that obviously candidates may not be aware of.
Yeah, take us into that. What typically happens behind the scenes after an interview? I mean, I suppose I get it to an extent that if the company is interviewed, let's say like 50, 40 or 20 people, it's quite a task to email every single one of them and say, hey, sorry, but you were not able to. I mean, but there are instances where there was only like the top 4, for instance, and the top 3 went into the second and the final rounds. I mean, that's not going to take you even 30 minutes to just respond and send them emails individually, the 3 of them. So what is it that actually often happens behind the scenes after an interview?
Okay. So typically after the interview is concluded, so the panel meets. Sometimes this happens immediately, sometimes a week later due to the schedules, obviously, of the panel members. Then the shortlisting needs to happen. Recommendations need to be approved, references done, maybe internal debate about the 2 candidates. So it can often drag on. So while the candidate is anxiously waiting, the company is busy on the background processing this whole thing. So it's not an easy process. It involves a lot of factors as well in the background.
Sure. So what do we do then? Because sometimes this hits at your confidence when you have waited and waited and waited and you thought you aced it and you made it to the final round. You were so confident, but you don't hear back from them. So is it better to call them, to email them? Because you also don't want to look, because we're often told don't look desperate. And so people just don't know what to do. What's the best way to respond?
Okay.
Because we all want closure at some point, don't we?
True. And you're quite right. It's very discouraging, and it affects people emotionally. They start questioning their worth, their skills, and their confidence often drops as a result of this. But it's okay to follow up. A polite follow-up email about 5 to 7 days after the interview is perfectly reasonable. So you want to keep it short, just thank them, reconfirm your interests, and ask about the next steps. It's important to ensure that you keep it short and professional as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
so keep it short, keep it professional. But
Yes.
what emotional or psychological impact does this silence have on the job seekers themselves?
Sure, it's very, very emotional, and it's emotionally taxing and exhausting. It takes a toll on one's emotional needs as well, because obviously the silence is very discouraging, and people start to personalize it. We see this a lot with job seekers. They start to personalize it. People start feeling as if, they're not adequate enough. Their skills, they start questioning their skills. It often then affects their confidence. Their confidence drops. Some even stop applying at all because it's emotionally exhausting to be in this whole process.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take some calls now from our listeners who have had experiences in this on 011-883-0702. You can send your WhatsApps, by the way, as well on 072-702-1702. Have you been ghosted after an interview, and how did you deal with it? And yes, as Nelisile says, you can follow up, be professional, keep it short and sweet. But what is the correct and professional way for you as a candidate to even follow up after an interview? How often should you do it? Is once enough? How do you find the closure? Those things can really get tricky for us. Your experiences, voice notes coming through on 072-702-1702.
Good morning, Clement and the 702 listeners. I would like to remain anonymous. About the interview ghosting, I've actually just this morning I woke up and sent a follow-up email asking Kanti what's going on. I went for an interview about 2.5 weeks ago, and I was so good that they asked, why didn't you apply for the post of the manager that you'll be reporting to if you get the job? And that's basically how good it was. So the following week they asked for references, they did a background check, and then last week it was just silence the whole week. This morning I was like, no, I have to follow up on this, and sent an email requesting for a response. So your topic today is quite relevant. I hope I get some clarity if I did the right thing by following up, or I should have just went quiet. Thanks, bye.
I think saying that it's not intentional and HR people are overworked I think that's just an excuse, and I don't think that's okay. It's not fair to ghost somebody. It's one thing if you send your CV and never hear back, but if you've been for an interview, then it's just rude and unprofessional, and it's deliberate. It's because people don't want to. They just haven't got the guts to phone somebody back and tell them that they weren't successful. It takes nothing to send a WhatsApp message or drop an email. It's just highly unprofessional and rude and very unfair.
It is very unfair. But Nelisile, some employers may justify and argue that, when you have come for an interview, they will say to you, you will hear back from us if you've been successful. So in other words, take silence as a no, you didn't make it. Does that justification fly?
It should not. It should not, Clement, because I think for the most part, due to the high volumes of applications that get through, the initial screening, for example, if you don't make it to the initial shortlist, and we understand because certain roles, they actually attract about 200 applicants. So, communicating to each and every of those people becomes a challenge. However, as one of the callers had said, or the voice note that was heard, the people who get shortlisted, you get invited to interviews because it's such a manageable number. You can actually personally reach out to them and give them the feedback that they need. And back to your question, it's not justified, and I completely agree. We need to communicate better as HR.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there was a question about like follow-up attempts. Like, so are you saying follow up once? That should be sufficient?
Okay, so generally 2 follow-ups are enough. So one after a week and maybe another one after 10 to 14 days. Beyond that, it might be, taken as if you are, too desperate. But then again, you get people who say, I've been following up. I followed up twice. What do I then do? And, at some point, usually if you do not get a response after the 2 follow-ups, then it's usually safe to assume that the process has moved on. And at that point, the healthiest thing a candidate can do is just to shift their energy to other opportunities as well.
Is it appropriate to politely ask for feedback, even if as a candidate you didn't get the job? Because you probably thought,
absolutely,
that went so well. How did I not get it? Is it fine to say, please, can I get feedback on what I've not done right?
Yeah. So absolutely, it's very important, because not only does it give you the closure that you want, it also helps you as a candidate to prepare for future interviews, for example. So a polite request for general feedback is completely acceptable. Something like, I'd appreciate any feedback to help me grow. You may not always receive it, but it's professionally appropriate to ask.
Okay. More WhatsApp voice notes are coming through on 072-702-1702.
Good morning, Clement and the team. Yeah, I've been ghosted and I did make a follow-up there. And the most difficult thing when the person on the other side is the one interviewing you, telling you, say, you know what, Andile, the problem is your age. You match everything. The problem is the age. How does one overcome that? Andile and Brackendowns.
Good morning, Clement. The Human Resource Department, it is the human department. It is the human capital. Communication should be at the center of it all, Clement. I'm not for the idea that someone has to sit there and they forgot to send a mail to say, no, this candidate was unsuccessful. Everything can be automated, Clement. I mean, especially if the application process is automated, it simply means that those pool of individuals that do not or did not make the cut, with a click of a button, Clement, they can be sent emails. So for a minute, I'm not even buying the fact that, a department is overwhelmed, because of high unemployment rates and so on and so on. Come on. There's ways to do this, and communication should be at the heart of it.
Yeah, that's a fair point, Nelisile, isn't it? I think companies can improve communication to minimize the stress for job seekers.
Very true, very true. And that's why we're seeing a lot of companies are actually moving towards the automation part, where, I think, that automated, response to say, unfortunately, you didn't get it, is probably better than, the complete silence where you keep people wondering whether they got the job or not. So definitely automation is one of the things that companies can actually look at to improve the communication and close the communication loop.
Yeah.
Hi, Clement. I know of a friend of mine who went to an interview. He went for online interview first. Second round, he was called into the office. Third round, he was called for a quick chat with the HR. They spoke about working hours and things like that. And they told him, keep your phone close. We will be in touch. It was almost a done deal, because if you're asking me about working hours and working conditions, I mean, the assumption is that all that's left is for the offer to come, which never came. This was in mid-October. We got to end of November, no response whatsoever. He sent a follow-up email. He said, I'm just checking. I'm still interested in the job. No response. It's 2 weeks now, no response. No response, I mean, what do you make of that? What is this person supposed to feel? Because they're desperate for a job and they've just been ignored, literally. Thank you.
Yeah, HR managers can do better.
Clement, when you're here talking on the end of HR, not really as a candidate, we need to do better by people in terms of giving feedback. And unfortunately, sometimes other professionals find themselves working in organizations that do not even have systems to assist in that regard, and line managers who don't really understand the concept of, candidate experience on the importance of giving feedback. You find HR following up a number of times with the line manager, and they are just being about the bush, taking their own sweet time, being undecided, putting vacancies on hold, resuming vacancies. It also is frustrating on the HR professional side as well. But I think it's an opportunity for us to do better and to educate our clients as hiring managers better.
Dumela Clement and your guest. I once went for an interview in the northern suburbs, and as one does, I'd done my homework on the company that was interviewing me, the kind of work they do, some of the campaigns that they've been involved in, and had this amazing interview where, I was literally introduced to some of the staff. I was shown around the building, answered all the questions. And when your interview almost turns into a conversation where you feel like you're on the same page as the other person. And I didn't get the job. I don't ever remember getting a call or feedback or nothing. And it leaves you in a state where you start second guessing yourself and wondering, what did I do wrong? And yet all the indications are that it was a great interview.
I mean, that can be so confusing. Nelisile, there are many people that have gone through interviews that were almost perfect. Where you get introduced, they even take you through the building. They show you where you would potentially be positioned. This would be your office. It's just gone so well for everybody else. You can sense the energy, and yet they just disappear. Just like that.
Yeah, it does. It does. And it introduces another dynamic that, most candidates might not be aware of. Mm-hmm. So, while the process is ongoing, there are big things or big factors that come into play in the organization as well. So things like budgets, get frozen, the structures change, someone might resign, and a new need might arise, and suddenly the role that you interviewed for doesn't look the same. And, HR can't communicate until decisions are final. So there are instances where HR is also waiting on the on the hiring managers, on the decision makers, so that they can also, communicate to the candidate. So there's a lot that often, goes into the background. But, unfortunately, HR would obviously, get blamed for it. But there are quite a lot of organizational factors that happen in the background. But I agree, there are lots and lots of opportunities for improvement within HR, within the organizations, and within hiring managers as well.
What's your advice to someone listening to us now who feels like they're always being ghosted after interviews? Maybe they've gone through 3 different ones or 2, whatever the number, and they've just been ghosted.
Okay. So for me, it's, please don't take it personally. It's easy to personalize it, but that's the worst thing that you can ever do. So it happens to amazing, talented people every day. The hiring process is influenced by many factors, as we had already mentioned, which had absolutely nothing to do with your ability. So follow up politely, learn from every interview, keep building your confidence, and keep going. The right opportunity always comes. Sometimes silence is just preparation, for the coming opportunity.
More WhatsApp voice notes.
Hi, Clement. You know what? My son-in-law, I'm gonna remain anonymous. My son-in-law applied for a job in one of these big institutions, financial institutions. He went for an interview. They said he must track his application, and every time he tracked it, he could see that there's progress. But 4 months or 6 months down the line, I can't even remember. It took so long. I even said to her, this is not possible. Maybe you should just try something else. And then after that 4 months or 6 months, like I said, I can't remember. They said the company did away with the position. So you can imagine waiting for so long and then the next thing they say, the position was done away. It became redundant while you're waiting. But he was tracking it like every week, and every week there was progress and progress. But I don't know what progress was that. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi, Clement. Chantal here from Alberton. What an interesting topic. I'm going to weigh in because my professional designation is that of a recruiter. I've worked in financial services for over 10 years. And on average, it takes us about 60 to 90 days to fill a role. So when we are filling one vacancy, we could interview like more than 5 to 10 candidates because we are trying to find the best skill in the country for that specific vacancy. The last thing I want to do is decline a candidate who could potentially be the successful person for the role prematurely. So we keep you in the pipeline, we keep you in the wings, just in case we don't find what it is that we were, essentially looking for, but we do come back to you with good news. So that often is the reason why. It's because we are interviewing multiple people at a goal, and we don't always have the feedback within a week or two of interviewing you. I usually give my candidates the feedback that they need as and when we go through the process. But we're managing about 40 to 50 vacancies at a goal. So yeah, that's just my way in on the process. Chantal in Alberton.
Hi, Clement. Hi, listeners. I think it's completely ridiculous as well. You took the time to go through my CV. You took the time to call me, invite me for the interview, add the calendar invite. We scheduled everything. You met me. We had the talk. The least you can do is respond. It's unprofessional. It's rude. Send me a response. I've been ghosted quite a couple of times. There was a time when I went through 3 rounds of interviews and I never heard back from them. It's quite disheartening, discouraging, and you end up thinking, do I really want to move from where I am to go to a place where people are treated like this? Thanks for the show.
Yeah, it really, you end up thinking that. You end up thinking, is this where I want to go if people are treated like that? Nelisile Simelane, thank you so much for speaking to us, and thank you for some advice that you've given to some of our listeners who are or have gone through interviews where afterwards they were just ghosted. Nelisile is a Senior HR Solutionist at Shiluvah SA. That takes us to exactly 11:30.